Hello everyone, today we're looking at the topic of expanding double brackets. We're going to start with a scenario where we have to expand single brackets and collect like terms, and then we're going to move on to a few different examples of expanding brackets and an explanation of how to go about this process. Now, our first question in front of us provides us with two expressions, or one expression with two different brackets involved, and when we expand brackets, we simply multiply the number on the outside by what is on the inside. So that gives us 10a, and then the 10 times by the minus 2 gives us minus 20. And then over here, now you have to be very careful because of the minus which is in front of the 4. Whenever you're expanding a bracket, you always need to look at the symbol in front. So minus 4 times by a gives you minus 4a. And then minus 4 times by minus 6 is plus 24, and that is the expansion of a single bracket or two single brackets. Now, when you finish this off, you need to collect like terms. The like terms are the things which are the same. So you've got 10a, and next to that 10a, you've also got minus 4a. Again, looking at the symbol in front, 10a minus 4a gives you 6a. And then over here, you've got minus 20 plus 24. Minus 20 plus 24 gives a value of plus 4. Now that method or that process is going to be very important in what follows. Now below, I'm going to show us the method or a starting point for the method of expanding double brackets. What I've got over here are two numbers in brackets, which are 3 plus 1 times by 2 plus 5. Whenever you have two brackets next to each other, it means times. This is technically the same as 4 times by 7, which is equal to 28 when we multiply those together. Now, what I've done underneath is I've shown this as a grid method. I've shown a 3 and a 1 making our 4, and a 2 and a 5 making our 7. And what I've done is I've actually split these up into little rectangles, and we can work out the values by multiplying the two values together. So this over here is 3 times 2, which is 6. This one over here is 1 times 2, which is 2. This one over here is 3 times by 5, which is 15. And this one over here is 1 times by 5, which is 5. And actually, if we add those together, we get 6 plus 2, which is 8. And then 15 plus 5, which is 20. So collectively, that also is equal to 28. Now, the reason why I'm showing you this is very important when we come to expanding double brackets effectively. So what I'm going to show you right now is a scenario which we're going to work through. Over here, I've got the values a plus 2 and a plus 5 in a double bracket. Now, there are a number of different methods that you can use when you expand double brackets. I'm going to show you two, which I think are very important and very good to get used to. The first one is going to be the grid method, which we saw over here. Now, we know that we had a and plus 2. Now I'm going to put the symbol in front because the symbol is going to become very, very important later. And then over here, a plus 5. And then we're just going to multiply each portion together to get what we need. So we have a times a, which is a squared. We have a times 5 or plus 5, which is 5a. We have a times by 2 over here, which is 2a. And then over here, we have 5 times 2, which is 10. So overall, at the end, we get a squared plus 5a plus 2a plus 10. Now, whenever you expand double brackets, you'll always get 4 terms. But some cases, you can actually collect like terms. Just like we did over here, we collected our like terms. The only terms that are alike over here are the 5a and the 2a, or the plus 5a and the plus 2a. If we add those together, we get 7a, and the rest of it stays the same. That's still going to be a squared plus 7a plus 10. Now, there is another method which I think is important, especially when you look at using things like A-level maths or the higher end at GCSE, which is good to get into the habit of using. And what we can see is if we look at this very first line over here, this very top rectangle, this was technically a times by a plus 5, i.e. a times by a plus 5. That's basically what I've got over here, times by the entire bracket. And underneath, well, this is 2 times by a plus 5, which is plus 2 times by a plus 5, which is actually this over here, 2 times by the a plus 5. Now, if I expand these brackets like I did over here, I'm going to get the same thing. A times a is a squared. A times plus 5 is plus 5a. 2 times a is plus 2a. 2 plus 5 is 10. And we can see we've got the exact same thing in both cases over here and over here. So our final answer again goes to a squared plus 7a plus 10. So these are our two methods. Now the grid method is, I think it's easy, it's a bit more visual, but if you can get used to using this method, it will make things much easier at the higher end. We're now going to look at a few other examples for this case. So I'm going to move this over here and I'm going to pull up our next few examples. So our first example is on the left-hand side. Now, normally you're not actually given the grid. You either have to draw it yourself or use a different method. But I put it in here just to make it easier for ourselves. So our starting point here is, if we're going to use the grid method, is to fill in our grid, which is going to be x and then plus 1 and x and then minus 3. So we can see this time we actually have a negative involved. Now, we're still going to follow the same process. X times x is x squared. X times by minus 3 is minus 3x. X times by plus 1 is either 1x or x, however you want to write that. And minus 3 times by 1 is minus 3. Now, we check for any like terms. There are like terms in this case. And the like terms over here are going to be the minus 3x and the x. So we there have our like terms as well. Now, if we use the other method, if we hadn't used the process of the grid method, we said it was x times by x minus 3, and then 1 or plus 1 times by x minus 3. So this times by that whole bracket plus this times by that whole bracket. And again, if we now expand this bracket, we end up with x squared minus 3x plus 1x or plus x minus 3, which are the same terms in here, x squared minus 3x plus x minus 3. And we said we need to collect like terms. The like terms which we can collect are over here in the middle, leaving us with a final answer of x squared, which has not changed. Minus 3x plus x is the same as minus 2x, and then the minus 3 as well. So we've got there x squared minus 2x minus 3 as our final answer for that. So we've seen this time the same process again, but with negatives, and we're going to build on that. We're going to go to and do one more, exactly the same process, b minus 3 and then b minus 2. So if we're going to use the grid method, again, we need to fill in our grid. We've got b times by, or b minus 3 in this case. And then on the other side, we've got b minus 2. We now work that out. B times b is b squared. Minus 2 times by b is minus 2b. Minus 3 times b is minus 3b. And then minus 2 times minus 3 gives us a positive 6 or a plus 6. And again, collecting the like terms in this case is going to be these two values over here. So that's using the grid method. If we're not using the grid method, we're using the other method. Once again, we take the first value of b and multiply it by b minus 2. And then this time it's not going to be plus 3, it's going to be minus 3, because that is a minus 3 times by b minus 2, everything in that bracket. And once again, we expand. B times b, b squared. B times minus 2, minus 2b. Minus 3 times b, minus 3b. And minus 3 times minus 2, plus 6. Exactly the same things we had over here. B squared, minus 2b, minus 3b, plus 6. To finish up, we collect our like terms. Here are our like terms, which is going to give us b squared minus 5b for the minus 2b and minus 3b plus 6. That is our final answer, fully simplified. Okay, and that's our basic understanding of that scenario. I'm going to show you two final examples. These are a bit more challenging, just to kind of get you to understand the process and just to address some very common misconceptions, which we will see over here just now. So if I move this along to the right and then show us our first example, our first sort of trick example, and you'll see over here we've got a plus 4 and b plus 2. Now I'm going to do this via our method without the grid. So a times by b plus 2, which is everything in that bracket, plus 4 times by b plus 2. Now we've said here a times by b plus 2 and 4 times by b plus 2. If you want to use the grid method, that's fine, but expanding, we get ab plus 2a plus 4b plus 8. Now, at this point here, there are no like terms. AB is separate to 2a, which is separate to 4b, which is separate to 8. That means that this is your final answer. Remember, we said that there are always 4 terms whenever you expand a double bracket. You only collect like terms if you can. Over here, we could because we had minus 2b and minus 3b. We don't have 4 like terms over here that we can collect. The final example we're going to look at is this one over here. Now, this one throws a lot of people off. Whenever they see x minus 4 squared, a very common mistake is to say, oh, that's going to be x squared because that's x times x, and minus 4 squared, which is plus 16. Oh, that's got to be my answer. But actually, when you square something, it means you multiply it by itself. So if you're multiplying x minus 4 by itself, this actually becomes x minus 4 multiplied by x minus 4. Now that's created our double bracket scenario again. So once again, if we follow our process, x times by the whole bracket, x minus 4, which is what we have over here, times by x minus 4 again. Now, exactly the same process. If we expand, x squared minus 4x, we then have another minus 4x, and then finally minus 4 times minus 4 gives plus 16. We do have like terms in this case, and we can see that minus 4x gives us minus 8x, which means our final answer is x squared minus 8x plus 16. That's it for today. That's our final example. And remember, the key thing we've said here, there are 2 methods which we can use. We have either the grid method or this method over here, which, as I said, links better for your work at higher end GCSE and A level, but it really is up to you. So key things to remember is you always get 4 terms when you expand all brackets, and then you collect like terms if you can. Anyway, I hope that's made sense. If it hasn't, please leave a comment below or message me directly. Thank you very much for watching. Take care and goodbye.